Kurapika is introduced to us pretty early in the Hunter x Hunter anime, and at times his story is a major focus. His story is one full of anger and vengeance, as he has vowed to avenge his clan after the Phantom Troupe wiped them out. For years we've known Kurapika's ultimate goal in the Hunter x Hunter story, but with the long breaks in between chapters, it seems we may never get to see Kurapika's story conclude. What? New chapters are confirmed to be coming out again? Yes, it's true, new Hunter x Hunter chapters are on the way. And who knows, by the time you see this video, the chapters may have been stopped or cancelled or completely finished the Hunter x Hunter story. But before we get the real into Kurapika's story, I'm going to tell you how I think Kurapika would take on the Phantom Troupe. So, if you're new to What the If, remember to click the like button and subscribe if you want to keep seeing the best what ifs on YouTube. Also, I'm going to try and only talk about things that happened in the anime, but of course spoilers for the anime and the manga. This is the first video and mainly a way to introduce and set up the rest of the story, so just sit back and listen up, because our story begins just at the end of the 2011 anime, with Killua going off with his sister and Gon meeting up with his father. But in the world of Hunter x Hunter, things are always going on out there, and something is definitely going on. Kurapika has made enough money and grown confident enough to make his move on the Phantom Troupe. Kurapika goes through his contacts on his phone, hoping to get some backup, but he's having little success. Kurapika is unable to even contact Gon, let alone talk to him, and after hearing how well Killua is doing taking care of his little sister, Kurapika decides not to bother him and let his friends stay happy. Kurapika debates calling Luodio, but despite respecting him and his path he's walking, figures he would just end up having to babysit the much weaker Luodio. So, with little option, he calls the only other person he knows willing to go after the troupe, Hisoka. Hisoka is happy and surprised that Kurapika is still willing to go after the spider, and is more than happy to have someone distract the other troupe members while he fights Chrollo. So, Hisoka agrees to meet with Kurapika so they can make a plan together. But Hisoka warns Kurapika that after the spider is squashed, I might turn my sights towards you, if of course you manage to impress me. Kurapika ignores the crazy clown, just telling him when and where to meet up before hanging up the phone. Hisoka laughs to himself thinking, maybe this one will keep me busy until Gon is back in fighting shape. A few days pass and Hisoka and Kurapika meet up in York New City, where they first tried to take on the Phantom Troupe a year or so ago. Hisoka starts by greeting Kurapika saying, "Hello, it's been a long time. Should we start by testing out how much stronger we've both grown? Or did you have something else in mind?" Kurapika replies in a blunt, already annoyed voice, "Look, if you're here to be a creep, you can leave now. I don't need you for this. I just figured we had a mutual goal, so we would make it a little easier on ourselves. But if you're not as serious as I am, I've got no time for your crap. Now, do you want to take out Chrollo or not?" Hisoka sighs. "You're no fun. Gon would have leaped across the room if I challenged him like that. But you're right, my eyes are on Chrollo for now. So if you want serious, Hisoka, here I am." "Good," Kurapika says as he throws a notebook at Hisoka. As Hisoka quickly glances through the many full pages, Kurapika explains, "This is everything I've been able to find out on the Phantom Troupe. Whether it's hideouts, random facts, theories, abilities, it's all right there. Now, I have a plan for fighting and beating them. That's not a problem. My problem is finding them for long enough to actually take a few of them out." Hisoka raises his hand saying, "If I can speak without offending you, after what happened in York New City and my fight with Chrollo was ruined, I had to help him get his nin back, so he agreed to fight me at some point. I've been trying to catch up with him, but he hasn't seemed interested. Maybe since he doesn't know about us working together yet, we could get him to Heaven's Arena, and while I'm fighting him, you can do what you need to do to the other troupe members. But before we take this any further, I have to tell you, kid, Chrollo is mine. You can do whatever you want to the other members, but if I don't get Chrollo all to myself, there's gonna be problems." Kurapika says that's fine, I'm not a sadist, as long as they all pay I'll be satisfied. "But what makes you think you can even fight Chrollo yourself?" Kurapika asks Hisoka, who laughs as he says, "I truly don't know if I can, but I would rather die fighting him than win an unfair fight. I need an untainted win, or it's not a win at all." Kurapika says, "I guess that's understandable, but I'm surprised someone like you has any code of honor." Hisoka interrupts his new friend saying, "It's not honor, it's pride. Don't think that once the fight starts, I won't scratch, claw, or use any other dirty trick to win." We need to get into the fight on equal footing, but after that, he's nothing more than my prey. This guy's even edgier than me, Kurapika thinks to himself before saying, fine, I'll go to Heaven's Arena while you make contact with Crollo. Kurapika adds, don't take long. If this little team doesn't produce results, it's over. Kurapika gathers his belongings, but leaves his notebook with Hisoka saying, while you study, I'm off to the airport. I'll be checking in on you, so don't disappoint me, before he disappears into the busy streets of York New City. Hisoka then tosses the book into a nearby trash can as he begins his own journey after Crollo. Hisoka thinks to himself, depending on how good this kid is, I might have a fun time ahead of me. And if he can truly keep the rest of the spiders out of my fight with Crollo, it'll be worth a momentary team up. I just hope he hasn't forgotten how he screwed me over last time we were in York New City. I can't wait to see that brat's face once I take out Crollo and tell him it's his turn to die. Hisoka smiles before letting out a sinister laugh. He then sends a message to Crollo saying, I'm done waiting, it's you or them. Kurapika waits in a private room inside Heaven's Arena, biding his time for Hisoka to arrange a match with Crollo. I just have to trust that the other spiders won't get in between the fight. But I know if there are any close by, I can take a few of them out while Crollo is busy. Kurapika wonders if he should call Gon one last time, but decides against it, saying, this is my path, it wouldn't be fair to force it on my friends. And as he stares at his phone, a message comes in saying, the fight's on, be ready tomorrow at 10 p.m. Kurapika sighs in relief, but now begins to wonder and calculate all the possible variables at play. Like which members of the Phantom Troupe would he find? How close by is the next member? How long will Hisoka and Crollo's fight last? All of these questions and more flood his mind as he snaps himself back into focus. None of that matters, I just have to wait and see what happens, then trust my judgment. I'll have to make sure I have the resolve to finish this for me and my people. Kurapika spends the rest of the day scouting around the area in hopes of getting some insider advantage that will guarantee success. But as the day goes by with little to show for his effort, he settles for preparation, setting up what he can for the battle and being ready for anything the spiders throw at him. Kurapika also finishes the last part of a new nin ability. Kurapika made this ability while he worked as a bodyguard and needed a way to fight non-Phantom Troupe members. So for his new move, Kurapika conjures two Boken swords, much like the ones he used in the exam arc and that he trained with as a child, but these swords have the ability that make them stronger after every sequential hit, but if he forgets or doesn't alternate which sword lands an attack, the boost goes back to 0. But now he's adding the ability to transmute an elemental effect onto the swords, like fire or electricity, but only when he activates Emperor Time, thus risking his life while using the enhanced weapons. With this extra trick up his sleeve, along with his chain specializing in taking out the Phantom Troupe, Kurapika is confident that he'll be able to avenge his clan. The time for Hisoka and Crollo's battle draws near, but Kurapika still hasn't heard from his partner and is getting worried. Is this a setup, or did Hisoka change his mind and get too scared to face Crollo? I'll just have to trust that psychotic clown is just trying to annoy me. But then again, I knew he couldn't be trusted when I first asked him to help me. But when the time comes and the announcer calls them to meet in the middle of the battlefield, both men show up. Hisoka eager to start the fight and Crollo eager to get the fight over with. Kurapika almost finds himself stopping to watch as he wonders what a fight between such skilled nin users would look like. But he knows that the mission comes first, so he scans the crowd for any of the troupe members, but quickly notices a panic forming amongst them as some of the fans watching begin to rush for the exits. Kurapika looks for the reason for all the commotion and finds it back in the ring as Hisoka and Crollo's fight has already gotten intense. Kurapika watches on while Hisoka tries defending himself against several attackers, and Crollo seemingly sets up his next move. Kurapika almost goes to help Hisoka, but notices the crazed smile on Hisoka's face as he destroys the crowd members helping Crollo. Kurapika decides to keep focused on the mission since Hisoka doesn't seem to be bothered by what's happening, and the people interfering are definitely not part of the spider, so Hisoka might still feel the fight's fair. But as Kurapika turns his attention back on the crowd of people, he comes face to face with the Phantom Troupe member, Bolnolanov, who lands a strong right hook that sends Kurapika flying. Bolnolanov throws a few punches out at the air, almost showing off in front of Kurapika, before saying, I know you're the one who killed Uvagan and took Krollo's nin away. The Troupe's been wondering when we would see you again, and I guess I'm the lucky one who gets to take you down. Bonolanov wastes little time removing his bandages and begins his dance. Kurapika, with little time to react, leaps to his feet, but doesn't realize what's happening before Bonolanov's nin ability activates and allows him to conjure his tribal armor and spear. The Phantom Troupe member then lunges at Kurapika. I need to focus, Kurapika tells himself as he barely leaps over his enemy, then quickly summons his nin chains. I don't know what all of his abilities are, but I know he was able to use those sounds to conjure his weapon. I need to make sure to stop him if he tries conjuring anything else. Kurapika slams his chains down towards the spider member, who is easily quick enough to dodge, and tries moving in for a counterattack of his own. But Kurapika is careful to never leave himself wide open, leading to a stalemate between them. Bonolanov thinks to himself, I can't summon my Jupiter or it could interfere with Krollo's match, but I know this kid's gonna be tough to kill without it. I doubt any other troop members will come check on me while they have to guard their own zones, but I should still be able to take my time and wait until he's too tired to fight back. I just have to make sure not to get caught. As the battle between them continues, Kurapika struggles with his own thoughts as well, thinking, I don't know what the position of the other spiders are, or what's going on with Hisoka, other than the people are still running around terrified. And this guy seems to know all of my tricks with my chain. I guess the Troupe's been studying me just as much as I've been studying them. I know he's aware of my chain's main ability, so he won't let me get anywhere close to him. Usually I would be fine playing the waiting game, but I don't know how much time I have left. I have to kill him fast. Kurapika stops using his chains and summons his new Boken swords and activates his Scarlet Eyes, boosting all of his nin abilities to the max. Kurapika blitzes towards his opponent and cracks him with a hard shot to the body, then swipes a second towards Bonolanov's head. But with dancer-like precision, Bonolanov ducks and counters with a body punch of his own. Kurapika powers through the hit, not allowing himself to be pushed back this time, and sends out a few more picture-perfect strikes that land and leave Bonolanov's head ringing. Kurapika then transmutes a stunning electric pulse that connects with his opponent and paralyzes him. Kurapika wastes little time bringing back his chain and placing the vow on Bonolanov's heart, telling him, if you act against my interest in any way, then my Hatsu will activate and instantly kill you. Kurapika then demands Bonolanov answer his question about the Troupe, such as any hidden abilities or anything that'll help him in his later fights. But Bonolanov just laughs. The spider doesn't need me to survive. We will continue on as a family, because we have each other. Unlike you who doesn't have anyone. You're the last of your clan, much like I'm part of a dying tribe, but you still don't see anything wrong with killing me. Bonolanov keeps laughing as he continues. I wasn't even there when the Troupe killed the Kurta clan, but you're still gonna kill me without any regret. Face it, little man, you're just as bad as us and you know it. Kurapika again asks for an answer, but it's too late. The vow activates and kills Bonolanov for rejecting Kurapika's request. Kurapika, knowing it's over, quickly checks back at the arena and sees no fighting, just a pile of bodies. But suddenly a loud explosion startles Kurapika as the pile of bodies below them explodes, finally sending anyone still dumb enough to still be in the arena into the lower parts of the building seeking safety. What the hell's going on, Kurapika thinks, as he peeks over, only to see Krollo standing unfazed with what looks like zero damage done to him. Soon, a few more Phantom Troupe members join Krollo, implying to Kurapika that Hisoka has lost the fight. Kurapika waits for now, knowing he would be unable to beat all the remaining spiders by himself, so he sits back until they leave, then rushes to Hisoka's aid. Kurapika assumes Hisoka has to be at the bottom of this mountain of bodies, and eventually finds him dead and unable to move. But as Kurapika frees his body, Hisoka's eyes open and he gasps for air. Kurapika tries using his chains to heal Hisoka, but it does little to help. Hisoka smiles through his injuries, saying, I lost the fight, Krollo, but the war's not over yet. Kurapika tells Hisoka to stop and rest while he tries dragging him to a doctor. Kurapika wonders if Hisoka will even be able to survive this beating, let alone help anymore in the fight against the Phantom Troupe. While in the back of his mind, he also thinks about how Chrollo seemed completely unharmed and seemingly beat Hisoka this badly with little to no problem. And if Chrollo truly is this strong, how will I take him out without any backup? Kurapika puts this thought to the back of his mind for now, knowing that he needs to be fully focused on keeping Hisoka alive. Kurapika struggles to carry Hisoka through the rubble of the heavily damaged arena after his own tiring fight with Bono Lenovo, but he manages to get Hisoka to the local medical facility before finding a hotel room for the night, hoping to avoid any Phantom Troupe members still in the area, looking for their friend's killer. Kurapika assumes the Troupe has found the body by now and are trying to figure out who is responsible for Bonolanov's death. They can't link it back to me, not yet, but I might be their first guess. I know they're not stupid, so they will be able to connect the dots if I'm not careful. But all I can do tonight is rest. If I'm lucky, tomorrow Hisoka will be awake enough to tell me something about what happened against Chrollo. So after a long day, Kurapika falls asleep with one ear open for trouble. But while Kurapika sleeps on the other side of the city, the Phantom Troupe are furious. Fink slams his fist on the table, asking, "How could we lose Bonolanov?" Phaeton yells back, "It's your fault. You were the one who told them to split up." "What do you know, small fry? You weren't even there," Fink shoots back at Phaeton, who's almost ready to swing at this point. But Chrollo stands from his seat, grabbing everyone's attention, then calmly tells everyone to sit down. Finks and Phaeton are still visibly angry, but perfectly follow Chrollo's orders as they and everyone else wait for Chrollo to speak. The facts remain that I am ultimately to blame for what happens to anyone who is a part of the spider. As the head, I lead everything, and this loss will lay heaviest with me, so please, anyone who wants to blame Finks or anyone else for this, point your criticisms towards me. Chrollo stands in front of the other Phantom Troupe members with his eyes closed and arms spread wide. But everyone else is still silent. Chrollo fixes his jacket before continuing. "Now, with everyone calmed down, we can talk about what's really important. Stopping the bastard who did this. I know for a 100% fact Hisoka had no chance to kill Bonolanov, and it had to be someone working with Hisoka, or at the very least interested in watching this fight between me and Hisoka. We all know Bonolanov wouldn't have fought somebody he didn't feel he had to kill, especially while on an important mission like this. So, that leads me to believe this person was looking for one of the spiders to fight. I only know one person that would be so bold as to fight a Phantom Troupe member, and be worth it to one of us to go out of our way to stop them." Everyone's mind automatically goes to the chain user, better known as Kurapika, but nobody says a word. That's right, everyone. The boy who killed Uvagin. Either he was working with Hisoka or he's in the city hunting us and just used Hisoka as bait. Nobungananga shouts out, "Then we must go after him and finally kill that little punk. He's already taken 3 of us down and I refuse to let it happen again." Kaluto whispers to Shizuku, "Who is this chain user?" But Shizuku quietly tells her to wait and they could talk about it later, before Chrollo finally speaks up again. "I suppose you're right, Nobunaga. Through the years we've gained enemies, and with Hisoka gone, maybe it's time we leave no one alive to keep chasing us for revenge. I say we all go after this poor delusional boy who thinks he can stop the Phantom Troupe." The Phantom Troupe cheers as Chrollo continues, saying, "We'll strike in teams of 2, so none of us will be alone, and when we find this kid, we'll kill him quick and easy, no grandstanding or theatrics, just 100% focus on our mission. Let's remind everyone why they should still fear the Phantom Troupe." With their new collective goals set, the troupe rush into the darkness of the sleeping city looking for any clue or sign of their still unknown enemy. Lucky for Kurapika, they won't find him tonight, but his sleep is still interrupted by a vivid dream of him once again talking to Bonolanov and is rehearing his last words, mocking Kurapika, calling him just as bad as the spider. In his dream, Kurapika tries to defend himself, saying, "No, I'm getting justice for my people. I am not like them." But more and more people come to mock him, asking, "How many people have you killed? Who have you ever actually helped? What would your people think if they saw you now?" Kurapika's mind races back and forth in a panic, but he finally is woken up by a sound in his hotel. Kurapika grabs his bokken swords and readies to defend himself when he hears a voice speak out from the darkness. "What's wrong, partner? Did you think I was out for the count?" Hisoka steps out from the shadows, seemingly healed from his fight with Chrollo, to Kurapika's surprise. "What? How are you even walking right now?" Kurapika asks. "It looked like Chrollo almost destroyed you." Hisoka laughs, saying, "Yeah, but he was too weak to finish the job, it seems. And I'm still hurting, but I am better. My bungee gum and texture surprise seem to be on a whole nother level ever since I died." Kurapika has many questions, but just watches and waits, as he can tell Hisoka is just building tension for dramatic effect. Hisoka says, "Yes, I made a mistake letting Chrollo decide when and where the fight would be. And I paid the price. I lost not just the fight, but my life. Lucky for me, as I laid there, dying, I took a chance, telling my nin to use bungee gum and revive me by forcing my organs to keep working until my heart and lungs could work by themselves. But putting the condition of death on my nin seemed to have greatly boosted my nin abilities. I've heard of the strength of post-mortem nin, but to think it would work this well is amazing." Kurapika finally asks, "So does that mean you can still fight?" Hisoka again laughs. "Yes, I can fight. And I will fight and kill every one of those freaks for killing me. I know Chrollo was getting help from the other troop members during our fight, and that means all bets are off. I'll make sure I have the advantage from here on out." Hisoka tells Kurapika he's leaving and will return in the morning to go hunting. Hisoka then slowly turns to Kurapika and tells him, "It would be best if you made sure you were ready to join me," before he walks out back into the darkness. Kurapika quickly goes and closes the door and breathes a sigh of relief. I don't know what's going on with Hisoka, but he seems off, and I could feel how bloodlust he was from across the room. I'll have to keep an extra eye on him, maybe even warn Killua that Hisoka might try something with Kaluto. Kurapika thinks to himself, "I still haven't decided how to handle her. I know I don't want to kill her for Killua's sake, and because she barely joined the troop this year. She probably doesn't know how bad they really are. Well, there's no choice now," he says, as he texts Killua. "I got something really important to speak with you about. Please call me as soon as you can." After a stressful night of tossing and turning, Kurapika stands in the cold city streets waiting for Hisoka, thinking, "I wonder how long it'll take that psycho to get here, especially after he made such a big deal about me being ready." Kurapika falls deeper into his thoughts, thinking, "I'm gonna have to be even more careful with Hisoka now that he seems more unhinged than ever. But as long as he's chasing Chrollo, I'm sure I'll just be an afterthought. But still, I wonder if Hisoka is telling the truth about his post-mortem nin. I need to catch up and figure out the truth behind this." As his mind races, Kurapika is interrupted by a feeling in the back of his neck. Hisoka's here, he tells himself, as he begins looking around, and sure enough, Hisoka finally arrives with a sinister grin on his face. "I'm glad you're here," he tells Kurapika. "I already have a lead on some troop members. Do you want to go after them alone, or come back to my place and help me interrogate my new little friend?" Kurapika almost decides to join Hisoka in the hunt for answers, but follows his better judgment about staying as far from Hisoka as possible, and decides to go check on the local crime hotspot for him. Hisoka laughs at the clearly uncomfortable Kurapika and tells him, "Okay, your loss, but I expect results, not excuses," before handing Kurapika a map and a note, supposedly taken from the troop member, Shizuku. Kurapika flips through the book, quickly noticing scribbles forming a diary of Shizuku's thoughts. "I'll see what I can learn from these and let you know what I find. And hurry up with Shizuku, then get back to work. Alright, Hisoka?" Kurapika then jogs off into the city as Hisoka gleefully heads back to his new hideout, eager to see what else he can learn from the captive Shizuku. Kurapika studies every page of Shizuku's notes as he rides the bus deeper into town. Maybe that could be a clue, but I doubt it. I think this notebook is a dead end. As Kurapika goes to toss the book beside him, he sees an odd patch on the last page. So he begins to pick at the stitches, clearly placed there somewhat recently, until a small chip falls out onto his palm. Kurapika squints his eyes, trying to focus and find the purpose of the electrical device as a sense of tension starts surrounding him. Is this a tracking device, he thinks, as his mind begins to race? If it is a tracker, who put it there? The troop? Or Hisoka maybe? Interesting. No matter who placed it, I need to destroy it for my own safety. Kurapika crushes the small microchip in his hand and tosses it out the window, just to be safe. I need to get off this bus as well. Who knows how long they've been tracking me for. Kurapika stands up and heads towards the front of the bus, ready to exit, but the driver speeds past his stop. Kurapika turns around. Hey, I need to get off quickly if you don't mind. But as his eyes make contact with the driver's, he sees what looks like an empty shell behind the wheel with a large needle stuck in his neck. Shit, Kurapika says as the bus driver slams into another truck driving along the road, causing Kurapika and some of the other passengers to fall to the ground. As the bus driver continues dangerously driving down the city streets, colliding with cars and people alike, Kurapika can tell he's already in a battle with someone, most likely Shawnark from the Phantom Troupe, using his manipulation techniques. He looks around the bus, making sure he's not surrounded by any other obvious threats, but it seems safe enough considering the situation. Kurapika tries reaching the front of the bus, but just as he gets close enough to stop the driver, they slam on the brakes, sending Kurapika flying out the front windshield and into the streets in front of them. I gotta get up quickly, Kurapika thinks, as he hears the bus tires spin back to life and straight towards him. Kurapika's eyes burst into a blood-red color as he activates his scarlet eyes, and then enhances his strength, making him more than strong enough to stop the speeding bus with a single arm. As the bus crashes to a stop, Kurapika lets out a sigh of relief. But he quickly finds out this is no time to catch his breath, as in an instant, a bright yellow light slams into him and sends him flying into a nearby supermarket. I was right, it was Shawnark, and now it seems he's using his autopilot mode. I need to be careful since I have no idea how strong this guy can be. But without hesitation, Kurapika leaps to his feet and summons his chains, and without a sound, Shawnark uses a surge of power to intercept Kurapika, who tries rushing to cover. Kurapika is barely able to use his chains to counter some of Shawnark's power. I need to fight until his autopilot runs out of juice. There's no way he can keep this up forever. But now with a second to think, Kurapika remembers to let his eyes rest and return to their normal form. I don't know how long this fight will be, so I have to save my Emperor Time ability. And with a flash, Shawnark bursts from below, looking for Kurapika, who slams him back down with a heavy chain attack. Too easy, Kurapika thinks, as he grabs Shawnark with his chain and pins him to the ground. Your autopilot's strong, but without you to control it, it's too stupid to fight me. And knowing it's beat, the autopilot shuts down, leaving Shawnark back to his original form, confused and embarrassed at his obvious capture. Uh-oh, he says, I guess you got me, with a nervous laugh. Kurapika tells him to be quiet, and then asks, do you give up, or do I have to hurt you some more? Shawnark assures Kurapika, well, as long as I'm stuck in these chains, I don't think I can fight. But if you want me to answer some of your questions, how about you answer some of mine first? Kurapika agrees, hoping it'll speed things along, saying, sure, I'll answer one of your questions. Nice, Shawnark says with a smile. Okay, are you working with Hisoka? Kurapika thinks for a second. Well, no point in lying. Yes, I am. Now, you answer my question. Where is Krollo hiding? Let me think about it, Shawnark says in a childish, almost mocking tone. Damn it, Kurapika thinks. This guy's trying to be funny. Okay, let's see if he thinks my judgment's chain is funny. So, as Kurapika readies his chains, a bullet hits his arm and forces him to accidentally release Shawnark. Kurapika looks over and sees Troupe with a pistol shooting at Kurapika from cover. With his free arm, Kurapika quickly conjures a large riot shield to protect him from Troupe's barrage of bullets. But again, a newly free Shawnark bursts from the shadows and attacks Kurapika with a long knife, slashing and stabbing wildly towards his foe. Again, Kurapika conjures a weapon, this time his two Boken-style swords, as he goes blade to blade with Shawnark. Both are surprised at how well the other is at hand-to-hand combat, complimenting each other in their heads as the fight continues. But again, Kurapika interrupts, unloading half his clip trying to finish off Kurapika, who barely avoids the shots and stops Kurapika with a well-placed boken sword tossed across the room. But this distraction allows Shalnar to retrieve his needle from the bus driver and place it on a new victim, who then burst into the fight, landing a few powerful hits on Kurapika thanks to Shalnar personally controlling it. Kurapika uses gallery fake on his gun and tosses a copy to Shalnar's new puppet. Kurapika quickly escapes into cover as both enemies blast away countless bullets towards Kurapika, who barely makes it into the next room, where he checks his body, feeling at least 3 bullet wounds as he tries healing himself with his chains. "I can't keep fighting like this or I'm done for," he thinks as he gets back to his feet and conjures a replacement for his lost boken sword. Okay, first things first, I need to take out Kurapika since he's the weakest. But as Kurapika continues to think up his plan, a smoke bomb is tossed into his room as Shalnar's puppet again blitzes his way towards Kurapika, who tries battering it with his boken swords. But despite doing a lot of damage, the puppet continues relentlessly towards him, even punching him through the wall back towards the street. Kurapika rolls to his feet and wastes no time trying to find Kurapika as Shalnar chases after him. Kurapika sees Kurapika's focused on him and panics as he runs aimlessly for safety until they are both backed into a dead-end alley. Kurapika tries fighting back against Kurapika, but is far outclassed as he specializes in the thief side of the Phantom Troupe, not the battling side. But, lucky for him, Shalnar and his puppet arrive just in time to help his partner and help surround Kurapika. Kurapika finally speaks up saying, "You're finally going to pay for what you did to Pokunada and Uvagin, and we've already told Franklin to get Shizuku back from Hisoka and Maki to tell Chrollo we found you two. Now that the spiders got you in our sights, you're as good as dead." Kurapika laughs, saying, "It's sad that you guys keep coming to fight me, just for your friends to have to come and find your bodies after." Kurapika uses his boken sword as a lightning rod and transmutes an electric current around him, stunning Kurapika, Shalnar, and his puppet. Kurapika then grabs one of Kurapika's pistols and quickly finishes his 3 attackers off one by one, and then falls down from near exhaustion. Kurapika struggles to catch his breath as he stumbles to the street in search of a ride to his apartment. "Even if I can't check out the spot Hisoka told me about, I think killing 2 troop members is enough for today." Kurapika jumps into a taxi and heads off, promising extra money for a no questions asked ride from the driver, who of course agrees and goes where he is told. As Kurapika sits thinking about what could be next in this crazy week, when he gets a call from Killua. Kurapika quickly answers with a cheerful voice, trying hard to hide the pain from his injuries, but Killua can instantly tell and ask, "Hey, you're not too hurt, are you?" Kurapika laughs, just saying I'll live, but more importantly, I'm guessing you got my message? Killua sighs, "Yeah, I don't know how Kaluto got tangled up with them, but I'm glad you let me know, especially considering your history with the spider." "Don't worry," Killua says, "I'm already on my way over now. I should be there in at most 3 days. Just try and keep Hisoka away from Kaluto until I can get there." "But I understand if that's not your problem," Killua asks Kurapika, who replies, "I promise to do everything I can to keep your sister safe, Killua. Don't worry. But look, I gotta go soon, so I'll talk to you later when I find out more." "Sure," Killua says, "just be careful. My sister made her own choices, so don't go killing yourself just for her sake." Killua then hangs up the phone as Kurapika arrives at his hotel. He tips the driver and heads inside, where he finds a gruesome sight: Hisoka with Franklin and Shizuku's body strewn around the room. Hisoka says, "Well, I had a good day. What about you?" with an evil smile. Kurapika pushes Hisoka back, telling him, "You're a sick freak. Why are you here in my apartment?" Hisoka laughs, "Well, my place was a mess, so I thought it would be more comfortable here. Plus, they already found you, so I figured you'd have to leave this place behind anyway. So, why not have a little fun?" Kurapika washes his hands and face in the bathroom as he tells Hisoka, Well, I ran into Shaunark and Kurapika, so I took them out. So I guess that leaves what, 5 or 6 more? And I know at least half of them dead. Hisoka smiles. Yes, all we have is Finks, Machi, Nobunaga, Phaeton, Chrollo himself, and that new Zoldyck child. As Hisoka mentions Kaluto, Kurapika notices he still has Kuratopi's gun in his pocket. His hand slowly slides down as Hisoka rambles on. Kurapika thinks, should I try taking him out right now? As Kurapika goes back and forth in his head on what to do about Hisoka, he finally notices it's quiet. Hisoka stopped talking. Did he see me grab my gun? Kurapika looks behind him and sees Hisoka is gone. Thank goodness he's gone, Kurapika thinks, as his nerves finally settled down. Kurapika then quickly gathers his belongings and leaves the obvious crime scene behind as he looks for a new temporary home, telling himself, this is almost over. Just a little more and I can finally put this all behind me. Kurapika checks into his new hotel room, glad to be away from the mess Hisoka made across town, and thinks to himself, hopefully this will keep the remaining members of the Spider away from me a bit longer. But for now, I need to heal my injuries and rest. I'm exhausted from all the fighting and non-stop investigating. I'll have to wait for Kurapika to get here before making my next serious move, and then I'll have to ask Hisoka to handle finding the Troupe while I recover. That should give me 3 days to have a decent plan together for when Killua does arrive. It'll be nice to have a chance to just think about what's happened. Half of the Phantom Troupe is already dead, and Hisoka seems to already be half insane. But what about me? How far have I already fallen? I've been killing and fighting without a second thought. I didn't even try to help all the people riding the bus earlier when I fought Shaunark. Am I really becoming just like them, using my powers to just do whatever I want, and justifying it to myself later? Kurapika tries laying down, but as always as he falls asleep, he is plagued with thoughts and dreams of his actions, leading Kurapika to question himself more and more. But, thankfully for Kurapika, Killua is already on his way. After getting Alika to a safe place, Killua boards a ship, taking a direct path to the city surrounding Heaven's Arena to meet up with Kurapika. Killua's thoughts race almost as much as his friends, as he's constantly thinking of Alika's safety and hopes he makes it to Kurapika in time to help him and his brother Kaluto. Killua checks his phone for any news from Kurapika, but with no new messages, he decides to check up on Gon and give him a call. But as always, Gon doesn't answer. Killua laughs, asking himself, I wonder if Gon really is always busy training, or if he's just goofing off. Man, I wish Gon could have came with me. It would have been fun to check out Heaven's Arena again. But at least I got to see him when I dropped off Alika. But no time to think about Gon. I need to focus on helping Kaluto and Kurapika. So, as Kurapika's backup is on the way, the Phantom Troupe is dealing with the loss of more family members, as even Chrollo is starting to show signs of worry as he meets with the remaining members of the Spider. Chrollo starts by apologizing to his followers, saying, "This has all been my fault, for not just chasing after my own wants, but having all of you stay here and help me achieve my goal. But I realize it's time to set you all free. I will stay here to finish my business, and if I survive that, Hisoka and the Chain User, I would gladly meet back up with anyone who would still like to continue the life of a spider. But none of you are of any obligation to." Now finished, Chrollo leaves the floor to anyone else to speak. Finks is the first to stand up, saying, "Hey boss, this isn't all your fault, and you've never forced anyone to be here with you. I won't speak for everyone here, but I know more than a few of us have already decided we would die a spider, and that's not going to change now. Besides, I want the bastards who did this more than anybody." Nobunaga also stands up, saying, "That kid and Hisoka need to die, no matter the cost, even if it's me who must die. I'd gladly lay my life down for any of our fallen brother and sisters. But after they're dealt with, I will be leaving. It's not the same with so many of us gone. But until then, you'll have me as your sword, Chrollo." Machi then places her hand on Chrollo's back, assuring him, as long as the spider needs to be sewn back together, she'll be there too. Phaeton also chimes in, saying, "Survival of the spider is what's most important, and without me, it will surely die. I guess I'll have to stay to help too." Chrollo thanks his family for their support and promises results as they seem to gain a newfound inspiration to fight. Kaluto speaks up from behind them, saying, "I want to stay too." Everyone looks over, surprised that the newbie would want to stay after seeing all this death, but they let Kaluto continue as he explains. "I've always been searching for my family's approval, my mother and my brothers. I even joined the troupe hoping to get my brother Killua's attention by going on an adventure like he did. But it never works, and I'm always forgotten and left alone. But you all seem different. You don't need anybody's approval because you all have each other. I want friends like that." Chrollo smiles as he walks over and kindly talks to Kaluto. "We aren't your friends. We're your family now. You're just as important as anyone in this family, even me. And with us, you get as much as you give. You give your life to us, we'll give you our lives too." Chrollo quickly leaps back to the others, yelling out, "This family will not fall, I will not allow it," before regaining his composure and adding, "From here on out, we all stay no further than shouting distance. If I can't see you or hear you, you're too far. We work as a team, no chasing after fights or accepting solo challenges. If they want to fight us, let them fight us together at full strength. 4 days from now is when the meeting with my contact. The whole reason I chose this city to fight Hisoka was not just to give us the advantage, but to meet a man selling a very particular item, sheet music for the Dark Sonata, supposedly composed by the devil. And once I have it, I'll be able to protect the troupe from any threat, whether it's a nin user or an army. Once we have the Dark Sonata, it doesn't matter what abilities Hisoka or the chain user has, they and anyone else will be helpless. So please, my brother and sisters, help me with this one last job here. Help me steal the Dark Sonata from possibly the devil himself, and then we can have our revenge and rebuild the spider." Everyone cheers, falling for every word Chrollo speaks, as they join in together and toast the past and future of the spider. But while the spider have their fun, in the shadows, a motionless, silent Hisoka listens on and memorizes everything the troupe says as he forms his own plan in secret. If Chrollo is serious about this Dark Sonata, I may need to kill him sooner than I thought. I just wonder if Kurapika will make it until then. I can feel his skin crawling every time I'm near him, the fear building up between us. If he loses all trust in me, he might try to take me out before I even fight Chrollo. I'll just have to be on the lookout and make sure he's not trying anything or bringing anyone else to help kill me. But it doesn't matter. Kurapika, Chrollo, anybody standing in front of me, they will die. The Phantom Troupe gathers their gear as Chrollo reminds them of their mission. Now, the time has come for me to meet the man selling the Dark Sonata. I'm sorry to say most of my preparation for this has had to be thrown out due to the chain user's involvement. Now, I'll just have to take the sheet music by force. So, I'm counting on you all to stay as close as possible, just in case we're interrupted, while I handle the talking, of course. This should be an easy job for us, but with the luck we had lately, I'm preparing for the worst. Chrollo gives his family one final look before stepping out into the chaotic city streets, and right behind him, the remaining Phantom Troupe members follow as a single effective unit. And with Chrollo off to make his deal, Hisoka sends the signal to Kurapika, who has already been vaguely filled in by Hisoka that the Phantom Troupe are meeting up with someone and tonight is going to be a good night to try another attack. Kurapika readies himself for what he feels is almost certainly going to be an important battle in this war against the spider. He also checks his phone since he still hasn't heard from Killua and is beginning to worry. So he leaves a final message telling Killua an even shorter explanation of the situation that Hisoka told him and his phone's location before rushing out into the cold night. He walks slowly, waiting for Hisoka to reach the spider's final location so he can hopefully get the drop on the enemy. But as the two groups head for a clash, a second unknown figure waits for the meeting between Chrollo and a suspicious seller. And with Chrollo walking inside a fancy hotel and the spider fully hidden, Hisoka tells Kurapika it's time to begin. Chrollo makes his way through an elevator and straight to a room with the front door unlocked. Chrollo sees a blonde man with a smile even he finds a bit unnerving. The man quickly stands from his desk and greets his potential customer. Hello, it's great to finally meet you." The man extends his hand, saying, Well, before we get down to business, my name is Parston Hill. Now, what do I call you, sir? Krollo is so thrown off by the man, he almost reveals his name. But he snaps himself back into focus and readies himself to assassinate the helpless man before him. But as he makes his move, the door behind him opens and Krollo stops. A small deformed woman walks into the room, forcing Krollo to take a moment and carefully decide his next move. As Melody walks in, she seems shocked seeing Krollo, which confuses him since he's rarely recognized or noticed in this way. But Melody quickly hides her true feelings and tells Parston, "I'll let you know now, I'm willing to pay whatever you're asking." This perks up Parston's ears, but also intrigues him as he notices the tension between his two potential customers. Parston replies, "Well, that's great, but let's hear out our friend here, who I don't think has introduced himself yet." Krollo tells Parston to knock off the questions and name his price, because he's got places to be. Parston laughs. Of course, well, this is a very special and dangerous artifact found on the Dark Continent, so of course it can't be cheap. I'll start the bidding at, let's say, $5 million. Melody quickly agrees as her and Parston turn to Krollo and wait for his answer. Krollo laughs, saying, "Well, it seems I didn't bring any money with me," before summoning his Nin ability, Bandit Secrets. And as soon as Parston seems in trouble, two bodyguards burst into the room. But Krollo instantly uses a stolen ability that acts somewhat like a flashbang, momentarily blinding and stunning the opponents, as Krollo grabs a set of papers and a briefcase off Parston's desk before rushing out of the room. With the spiders seeing the signal, they burst in to help Krollo. Finks and Phaeton effortlessly take on the bodyguards as Nobunaga stops more hunters from trying to help Parston. Maki plans on trapping Parston and Melody with her strings, but both are gone, chasing after Krollo. The remaining members of the troupe debate about whether they should follow Krollo or stall for his escape, but when Hisoka drops onto the battlefield, the choice is made. Finks tells Kaluto to find Krollo, while the rest stay back and finally take care of Hisoka. Nobunaga's the first to attack, with a lightning-fast sword swipe that is stopped by Hisoka's sticky bungee gum. But as he holds Nobunaga, Phaeton sneaks behind him and lands a hard punch that stops Hisoka in place, surprised at the strength of the much smaller man. But with no time to waste, Phaeton continues his attack, kicking Hisoka hard enough to send him flying towards Finks. But Hisoka planned ahead and is yanked back by his bungee gum rope, thankfully saving him and wasting a potentially fully charged punch from Finks. Hisoka jumps back to safety, where he begins throwing razor-sharp playing cards down at his enemies. Most of the Phantom Troupe backs up, fearing one of Hisoka's tricks, but Nobunaga rushes forward, with his mind set on revenge, slicing the cards out of the air as he leaps towards Hisoka, and unleashes a barrage of attacks that Hisoka barely manages to evade. Nobunaga tells Hisoka, "It's time for you to pay for your sins. You may be able to stop one of us, but together we'll cut through you with ease." Hisoka laughs, saying, "Yeah, that's true, but the team's only as good as its weakest link, and you've let your anger separate you from the team." Hisoka lunges towards Nobunaga, connecting a strong hit and bungee gum on his opponent to everyone's surprise, especially Nobunaga himself, who thinks, "What? How is he so fast?" Nobunaga thinks harder before realizing, "No, I was just slower than before." He then checks his body and sees a single card stuck to his leg. Must be some kind of poison. No matter, he thinks, as he rips the card out of his body. Phaeton then helps Nobunaga up as he reminds him to stick close and fight as a team. Yeah, I will, don't worry. Let's just finish this quick," he says. But as the troupe close in on Hisoka, another fighter enters the battle as a chain slams the ground between the two sides and Kurapika finally joins Hisoka. Hisoka laughs, saying, "About time you got here. I was beginning to think you were just gonna leave me to die." But Kurapika just tells Hisoka to focus on the troupe as they get ready for the 4-on-2 fight. But little do they know, a second fight is already happening in the streets around the hotel as well. Krollo has taken the Dark Sonata and safely tucked it inside his bag as he easily fights off several guards of Preston. But with Preston nowhere in sight, he finds himself face to face with Melody, who tries appealing to Krollo's human side, saying, "I know you're the leader of the Phantom Troupe, but please, for the sake of your fellow humans, that song needs to be destroyed. Just look at me, and you can see what horror that music can cause just by hearing it, let alone playing it." Krollo, with little time for games, replies, "I'll give you one chance to answer honestly. How do you know who I am? And if you tell the truth, I'll give you the Dark Sonata, Scout's honor." Melody is hesitant, but with little choice, she tells Krollo the truth. "I know a man named Kurapika who holds a grudge against you, and he's told and shown me enough so I can recognize you. But that's it, I swear. I have no ill will towards you. I just want to stop anyone from being hurt the way I was." Krollo thinks for a moment, but all Melody hears him say is, "Kurapika, the chain user." This changes things. Krollo opens his book, Bandit Secrets, as he explains, "Sorry, but if you're friends with Kurapika, I can't let you live. I've got plans for this song, so I won't let it be destroyed." Krollo jumps towards Melody and uses a stolen enhancer ability to power himself up. But Melody is surprisingly fast and able to use her flute as a weapon, emitting her nin through the music, causing major confusion and pain in Krollo's head, causing him to stumble and fall to the ground. Melody tells him, "I'm not much of a fighter, so I focused on an inability that keeps fights from happening. Now, just give me the sheet music and I'll leave town forever." But Krollo dismisses her, saying, "Do you really think this is enough to stop me?" As he stands to his feet, he pulls out his knife. Krollo fights through the confusion and again heads towards Melody, who adds more notes to her nin song, causing an overwhelming sense of calm and peace to fall over Krollo, stopping him momentarily. Melody uses this chance to strike, saying, "Sorry, but I'll have to knock you out. Don't worry, you'll be healed and well rested after you wake up." But before she can attack Krollo, he blocks the attack and sends her flying with a stiff kick. Melody is shocked that Krollo was able to fight back from the calming effect of her nin, but Krollo egotistically explains before she can even ask, saying, "You seem to have a wide range of songs with various effects. This must be some calming spell to put me at peace so I can't violently act. But, sadly for you, I am at peace when fighting. I don't need to lash out with violence to fight. I can fight with nothing but pure joy." Melody realizes how outclassed she is by this monster as he again rushes her down with his superior speed and skill. But she doesn't move. Melody stands her ground as Krollo grabs her in an almost hug and stabs her in the back. Krollo smiles as he says, "Don't worry, I'll be sure to tell your friend Kurapika about our little date here." But Melody seems to be ignoring Krollo to his surprise, and he finally lets her go as she drops to the floor. Krollo sighs. He then turns around to see Kaluto finally made it down the stairs to him. But as Krollo walks towards Kaluto, he notices his bag is opened. And as he turns back, he sees Melody with a match in her hand, holding up the burning sheet music of the Dark Sonata. Krollo rushes over, but it's too late. The Dark Sonata is destroyed. And Melody smiles as she looks to Krollo, telling him, "Make sure to tell Kurapika I finally destroyed the Dark Sonata. I'm sure he'll be proud of me," before she quietly passes away. Krollo is clearly angry, but all he can do is laugh as he stands over Melody, saying, "Don't worry, you'll be seeing him soon. I may not have the Dark Sonata, but I have something just as good. Someone who knows how to play it." Krollo uses Bandit Secrets and explains to Kaluto, "I added a new ability to my book. Any Phantom Troupe member who dies who has an ability that meets my conditions automatically appear in the book, and I can use them as long as I haven't replaced their number yet in the troupe." This allows Krollo to use Shaunark's manipulator phone and antenna to reanimate Melody, and potentially control her. He then tells Kaluto, with her nin ability already using her music skill, it's a perfect match to use with the Dark Sonata. And since she's already dead, I should be able to just keep reviving her and using it as much as I please. Krollo smirks overconfidently at his own plan. As he tells Kaluto, it's time to head back and check on the rest of the troupe. But Kaluto points behind Krollo, saying, "What? My brother's on his way." as Killua uses his Godspeed to blitz down the city streets towards Kurapika's location, desperate to help his brother and his friend. As Killua races to find Kurapika, he sees Chrollo and his brother Kaluto, so he slides to a stop and tries to decide what to do next. Killua ignores Chrollo for now, but keeps a close eye on him as he turns to his brother and asks Kaluto, "Why are you here, helping the Phantom Troupe?" And Killua tries to continue, but Kaluto stops him saying, "I don't have to answer to you anymore, Killua. You only care about your friend and Alluka now." Killua is hurt by his brother's words, but he lets Kaluto continue. Kaluto tells him, "We used to be like best friends. We would play together, train together, and then you just left me." Killua finally stops his brother saying, "I left because of how crazy Mom and the rest of the family are. I didn't want to just keep killing people for money." Kaluto stops Killua again saying, "Exactly, you know how our family is, and you still left me with them. You even went back for Alluka, but never seemed to remember me." Killua wants to defend himself, but stops as he realizes he never did think about how Kaluto felt about him leaving. Killua starts apologizing, but Kaluto again interrupts him saying, "Now it's too late for apologies. I've started on my own journey, without you or your help. So I don't need your acceptance anymore. But I do want you to realize I'm just as strong, if not stronger than you, Killua." Kaluto starts building up his nin as Killua begins pleading with him to calm down. He says, "Kaluto, this isn't the time. Let's just talk about things. We're still family. It's never too late to talk." But Chrollo just laughs and cheers on Kaluto. He congratulates him on setting a goal and tells him to do whatever it takes to accomplish it. Chrollo continues saying, "I'm sure this family feud can be settled without too much bloodshed." So as Kaluto tries to start a fight with the uncooperative Killua, Chrollo thinks to himself, "The others haven't shown up yet. They may need some help. And what kind of example would I be showing if I didn't follow my own orders?" Chrollo tells Kaluto to rush back to the safe house after he's done talking with Killua. Next, Chrollo decides to try out his new fighting ability with Melody. As he makes his way back inside the hotel, to his surprise, a large force of low-level hunters have entered the building, under Parson's orders. Parson has already fled to safety, happy with the chaos he caused for the day, and is thankful for the chance to test some of his new toys that were left over from the human chimera ant hybrids the Hunter Association confiscated from NGL. Despite this, Chrollo still presses forward, taking out several hunters and chimera ants. The ease that Chrollo kills with is terrifying, as he fights through the enemies with the power of an enhancer, sending his opponents flying with every hit, but also the skill worthy of the leader of the Phantom Troupe as he switches through abilities, each perfect for the situations he finds himself in. Finally bored of playing with these low-level fighters, he conjures a jar filled with water, that when opened unleashes a stream of water, washing Parson's soldiers away into a cement-like trap, leaving them helplessly stuck. Chrollo makes his way back to the other Phantom Troupe members and sees a battle going on. Not only can he see Phaeton and Nobunaga fighting Hisoka and Kurapika, but he can also see that the remaining Chimera Ant hybrids are unsuccessfully trying to capture Finks and Machi. Chrollo turns on a headset he brought for the job and tells the others to move into position. The troupe quickly break away from their own battles to meet back with Chrollo. Hisoka sees Chrollo and is instantly ecstatic, but Kurapika is nervous. He tells Hisoka, "We need to leave while we can. The troupe is obviously planning something." But Hisoka pushes Kurapika away, saying, "If you're too scared to follow through, just leave now. I don't care what it takes. I'll squash every one of those bugs beneath my foot." But as Hisoka watches the troupe more closely, he also begins to feel on edge. The troupe, all equipped with the same headset, turn them on, covering their ears as Chrollo brings his puppet of Melody slowly to the front line. Kurapika is shocked and confused as he watches his friends stand in front of the Phantom Troupe. The remaining Chimera Ants rush towards the spiders as Kurapika tries yelling for Melody to move. But Chrollo gives his orders, telling Melody to play the Dark Sonata, and as she does, a sickening sound flows from her flute. As the music hits the Chimera Ants' ears, they instantly fall to the ground, writhing in pain as their bodies begin to deform right in front of the troupe's eyes. Hisoka and Kurapika are far enough away that the flute's soft sound barely reaches them over the screaming of the chimera ants, but this still sends a sharp pain through their body. They both cover their ears from the pain, which is still enough to render them unable to move. Kurapika looks up to see Melody's body on the ground and covered in blood, further deformed by playing the Dark Sonata, but somehow, at Chrollo's command, she struggles to her feet. Chrollo laughs as he taunts Kurapika. "Aren't you happy to see your old friend here?" "I didn't recognize her at first, but, well, let's just say I never forget a pretty face." "Don't worry, Kurapika, she didn't die in vain. In fact, she was able to finally destroy the Dark Sonata, just like she wanted to. It's too bad for her, though, that I really wanted the Dark Sonata, and now she's the only one who will ever know how to perform it. And with Shalnark's remote, I can make her play it whenever I want, no matter how much it destroys her." Kurapika tries telling Chrollo to go screw himself, but Chrollo points to his headset saying, "Sorry, we can't hear you. These headphones cancel out all sound that's not linked to them. You see, I was prepared for you this time. The only reason I've stayed here and played your little game is because I wanted the Dark Sonata. I had hoped to use its killing power to stop anyone from coming near Meteor City without our permission. But with its limited range and the damage it does to the user, it seems like a dead end. So now I'll just have to add it as another weapon to my arsenal to deal with the never-ending problems that come with living the life I live. Now, Phaeton, kill these guys and destroy this building." Phaeton laughs. "No problem, boss." Thanks to the damage he suffered in his fight with Hisoka and Kurapika earlier, he summons his Pain Packer suit and then his Rising Sun. The rest of the troupe rush out of the hotel, leaving the paralyzed Hisoka and Kurapika no way to stop the incoming sun from crashing into them. As the sun gathers its energy in the sky and slowly begins to fall, the Phantom Troupe collectively laugh as they make their escape, having finally won an encounter with the infamous chain user, Kurapika. As all hope is lost and the sun falls towards them, a flash of light appears, and then Kurapika hears an explosion. But he's not hurt. Kurapika notices that Killua has rushed in to save him from the attack. Killua could feel the massive aura stored in the attack from across the building, so he left the fight with his brother Kaluto to rush in with Godspeed and save Kurapika. And Hisoka too. Killua jokes that he didn't want to, but it felt wrong to just leave him there. Kurapika heals his wounds with his chains, and then thanks Killua for saving his life. "I'm just glad you showed up when you did," Kurapika says, as he tries fixing the headache given to him by the Dark Sonata. Hisoka finally speaks up, barely able to hide his anger at letting Chrollo escape. "What the hell was that sound anyway?" Kurapika thinks and tries explaining with what little knowledge he has on the Dark Sonata, telling Hisoka, basically it's a song written by the devil that can kill you if you play it or listen to it. He then explains that they must have just barely heard it, sparing them from the death the chimera ants had to face. Killua can see that Kurapika is sad and says, "I'm sorry about your friend. I didn't know them, but they didn't deserve whatever Chrollo's done to them." Hisoka interrupts the two boys saying, "Well, I'm out of here. I need to find some headache medicine, then plan my next attack." "Don't be long, Kurapika. I'll be waiting for you to call me." Hisoka then heads out, leaving Killua free to ask more questions about the situation. But Kurapika again apologizes, saying, "I'm sorry, I can't do this right now. I'm too hurt from the fight, and my head feels like it's about to split in half. But don't worry, we'll think of a way to deal with Kaluto and the troupe tomorrow," Kurapika assures him. Killua nods his head. Kurapika jumps from his bed, scared awake by a nightmare of Melody playing the Dark Sonata. He looks over at a still sleeping Killua and wonders if he made a mistake, bringing Killua into this, but figures it was bound to happen with Kaluto also wrapped up in what the Phantom Troupe was doing. While Kurapika is lost in his thoughts, Killua finally wakes up and checks his phone as he makes himself breakfast. "Good morning," Killua shouts out to Kurapika. "You want some cereal?" "No thank you," Kurapika replies with a exhausted yawn. "You need to make sure to take care of yourself. You can't fight the bad guys on an empty stomach," Killua says, jokingly lecturing his friend until he sits down for some food. Kurapika is anxious to continue after the troupe, but does acknowledge he's been skipping a lot of meals, so he thanks Killua for making him eat as the two catch up over their food. After some small talk, Kurapika surprises Killua, turning to him and asking, "Do you think I'm crazy for doing all this?" Killua thinks for a moment before saying, "I've known a lot of crazy people, and you're nowhere near the top of the list. I know I've had to do a lot of thinking about myself and questioning if I was crazy to figure out what's right for me," Killua says, "but everything that's happened has helped me find out what I want from life." "Wow," Kurapika says, before asking, "What did you decide you wanted?" Killua smiles and tells him, "Well, after growing up killing for my family and not really being happy until I met all you guys at the hunter exams, I decided I just want to live a happy life with my friends and the people I care about, like Aluka and hopefully Kaluto. But I just want the people I care about to be happy, you know? So I know this is important to you, that's why despite not really wanting to fight the Phantom Troupe, I will, as long as it means you and Kaluto can be happy." Kurapika is now the one surprised by Killua and how he's grown into such a caring and kind friend since they met at the hunter exams all those years ago. Kurapika again thanks Killua for having his back, but inside he wonders how Killua can have more conviction in helping his friends than Killua himself has in getting his revenge on the Troupe. Kurapika wonders if he should share his doubts about killing the Troupe with Killua, but tells himself, "No, I already dragged Killua into my problem, the least I can do is finish this. After it's done, there will be time for second guessing and living with my choices." Kurapika grabs his notebook out of his bag so he can start planning their next move when a knock on the door stops him. Killua looks back asking, "Were you expecting someone?" "No, I wasn't." "You think it's Hisoka?" Killua continues. Kurapika carefully looks out the door's peephole, but sees nothing. Kurapika looks at Killua and warns him to get ready for anything as he slowly opens the door. But suddenly, Kurapika is pushed out into the hallway by a smiling Killua. Confused, Kurapika looks over and is shocked to see a familiar face at the end of the hallway. "Long time no see, Kurapika," the voice calls out as the figure rushes down the hall to meet him. Killua laughs at Kurapika saying, "You should have seen your face, we got you good." But it finally makes sense as Gon helps Kurapika to his feet and says, "I'm finally ready to help. I hope it's not too late." Kurapika hugs Gon saying, "When did you get here? I've been trying to get up with you forever." Gon smiles. "Yeah, sorry, I always meant to call you back, but I guess I forgot." The three friends quickly rush back into their hotel room as the group again catches up on what Gon's been up to. He explains his tough daily training with Ging to completely relearn his ninja. At first it went by real fast, as I was already pretty good at the basics, but soon Dad turned the training up way beyond anything Bisky had us do. But it was worth it, I think. I'm more than back to full strength, Gon brags, as his aura begins to intensify with just the thought of testing his theory against the Troupe. Killua tells himself he's happy Gon hasn't changed much since his training with his dad, but he's also slightly worried for Gon's safety. So he places his hand on Gon's shoulder, laughing as he asks Gon not to do anything crazy this time. But Gon just smiles, saying, "I promise." But now it's time to catch me up on what's going on with the Troupe so we can finish this. As the three boys go over the remaining 6 Troupe members, a news alert flashes over the TV and through their phones to evacuate the area. Kurapika stops and turns the volume up enough for everyone to hear. The news anchor urges anybody in a 5-mile radius of Heaven's Arena to find safety, as the criminal organization known as the Phantom Troupe has taken over the arena and may be planning to attack the city, much like they did in York New. The broadcast focus shifts to a helicopter team with a live view of the massive building, showing that the Troupe have indeed taken it over. The cameraman zooms in on a massive screen surrounding the building that the Troupe are using to broadcast their message to the city. Crollo stands in front of the other 5 members as he speaks to the public. He says, "I am not as bad as you all think I am. I do everything I do for a purpose. But when plans change, you have to adapt or be left behind. And while I've been in this city, me and my family have been targeted and attacked endlessly. So, in an effort to protect ourselves, we've decided to turn Heaven's Arena into our new base of operations. If anyone has a problem with this, come and stop us." The Troupe then leave as Melody steps in front of the camera. Killua quickly grabs the remote and mutes the TV as she begins to play her flute. They can't hear what she's playing, but they all know as the chopper begins to spin out of control and crash. They can only hope this horrible attack wasn't heard by too many people. Kurapika turns off the TV and Gon bursts from his seat, demanding they all face the Troupe now. But cooler heads prevail as Killua talks Gon back down just long enough to be interrupted by another knock at the door. The three hunters can tell from the nin leaking in from behind the door it's Hisoka. Killua and Kurapika look at Gon for his reaction, but he just asks if they're going to let this guy in or not. So, they swiftly let the clown in, certain he's here to discuss what they just saw on the news. Hisoka confidently walks in, instantly noticing Gon's presence and asking him how long he's been in town. Gon keeps a stern face, simply replying, "Long enough to be caught up with the situation." Hisoka walks right past the other two hunters, quietly asking Gon, "Do you remember what I told you last time we saw each other?" with a devious smile. Gon steps forward, loudly warning Hisoka not to step out of line. "I came here to help Kurapika, not waste my time with you. If you get in any of our ways, I will take you out myself, Phantom Troupe or not." The room is silent, waiting for Hisoka's response, but he simply turns around saying, "Well, it's no fun if you're not scared. I'm not here to kill you, Gon. I'm here to discuss the troupe. I'm sure you all saw what happened at Heaven's Arena?" Kurapika answers saying, "Of course, that's what we were talking about before you came. Gon thinks we need to go in there as quick as possible, but me and Killua are thinking we need a plan first." Hisoka thinks for a moment, but confidently sides with Gon, saying, "Any time we take making a plan will just help the troupe. I say we go now while they're still setting up, and try taking out as many as we can before they even know what hit them." Killua chimes in saying, "Sure, that would be nice, but what are we going to do about Melody?" Kurapika speaks up, but Hisoka stops him, saying, "As I've said from the start, I'll be the one killing Chrollo, so let me worry about that. No offense, Kurapika, but your friend is dead, so if we waste time thinking about her, we'll just be doing the troupe another favor." Kurapika swallows his pride and anger long enough to ask, "What about the Dark Sonata? Did you make a special bungee gum for that, or do you have a different plan?" Hisoka laughs, saying, "My normal bungee gum will be enough for me, I promise. You'll all have to find your own way to survive that horrible song." Kurapika tells Hisoka, "If you can actually get Chrollo alone and not die from the music, we should all be fine. Chrollo wouldn't risk killing his own people by playing it on the speaker system. So if we can just separate the troupe and win our own fights, we have a good chance of all walking out alive. We just have to trust and work together," Kurapika emphasizes towards Gon, but more specifically Hisoka. Killua breaks the tension by adding, "If we head out now, it will be just before dark by the time we get there. We can maybe think of a plan while we drive." The four men all agree it's now or never and begin racing to their final confrontation with the spider. A quiet tension fills the air as they all make their way through the panicked city as they finally get close enough to see Heaven's Arena. They see the news helicopter from before crashed into the side of the giant building, seemingly destroying all the screens and speakers the troupe had been using to broadcast the Dark Sonata. "That's pretty lucky," Killua points out, as they exit the vehicle and make their final preparations. "Yeah, Kurapika agrees, but keep your earplugs just in case. We can't make any mistakes in here, alright? Just like we talked about, we attack quickly before they even have a chance to defend themselves." They all nod in agreement. While inside Heaven's Arena, the troupe is scrambling to finish preparation. All that's left to finish is the first floor. If we get this new speaker system down here, they won't even be able to enter the building, the troupe confidently laugh. But before they can even start, Killua bursts into the room with his Godspeed, and before anyone can react, he reaches Nobunaga and paralyzes him with a taser-like touch. Killua then dashes to Maki, barely managing to stop her as well before Chrollo shouts out to warn everyone of the sudden assault. Gon and the others quickly rush in behind Killua, but as the spiders scramble to defend themselves, Gon heads straight to the immobilized Nobunaga and lands a thunderous punch, sending the troupe member flying into the other room. Hisoka then follows up by quickly using his bungee gum to completely tangle Machi and pin her to the ground. This lets both sides regroup and realize the fight has become even in an instant. As the 8 men stare at each other, waiting to see who makes the next move, Chrollo tells Kaluto and Phaeton to start defending so he can use his specialized nin ability to summon what remains of Melody's body. And without missing a beat, Kaluto and Phaeton run into the front lines. First, Kaluto scatters a massive amount of razor-sharp paper scraps and then manipulates them into a swirling shield wall. Kurapika shouts out, "We have to separate them and get to Chrollo now." Gon charges, then launches a quick Janjanken paper blast at Kaluto's shield, leaving a huge hole right down the middle. Hisoka is the first to leap through, yelling out, "It's a trick, they're using the paper to cover their escape." Hisoka then rushes up the stairs after the spider, with the others not far behind him. It seems the troupe already planned their escape routes, as each one takes their own path. Killua calls out he's going after Kabuto, as he quickly outpaces the others and tries finding his brother. Gon heads off after Finks, leaving Kurapika to find Phaeton. But Kurapika thinks for a moment of the two troop members stuck downstairs, Machi and Nobunaga. Kurapika thinks his best bet is to quickly finish them off and then catch up to the others. So he quickly takes the stairs back to the first floor, where almost like fate, he runs into Phaeton, trying to release Machi from Hisoka's bungee gum. Phaeton instantly notices the intruder and mumbles about his luck. He then turns to face Kurapika, while promising Machi he'll free her after he kills the chain user. Phaeton takes a final look back at Machi before rushing in towards Kurapika. Phaeton is surprised at how easy it is to dodge the barrage of attacks flying out from the chain user, but Phaeton wastes little time thinking about it as he tries finishing the battle in one move. But as expected of someone capable of taking out Phantom Troop members, Kurapika is able to avoid Phaeton's attack as well. Kurapika steps back, giving himself enough time to grab his own Boken swords and rip off their protective covering. Kurapika points one of his swords to Phaeton as a warning, saying, "You don't stand a chance in a sword fight with me, so just leave now. If you promise to disappear for good, you don't have to die." Phaeton laughs. "What is this? The stone cold killer already getting cold feet? You started this war, have the guts to finish it." Both men leap back into the fight, trading back and forth equally, with neither seeming to budge. Kurapika tries keeping the pressure on Phaeton, attacking non-stop with both of his blades. But, amazingly, Phaeton has been able to keep up with his amazing swordsmanship, but is having trouble doing anything other than fighting defensively. Both men can feel it's a stalemate, but they also know whoever can last longer will survive. So, they both continue to fight and test the other's will to win. Not far from their battle, Nobunaga begins to wake up from Gon and Killua's combined attack, and can hear the battle going on in the other room. But he can feel his body is injured, most likely multiple broken ribs or worse. He tries standing, but for now he can't, and is forced to think about how strong Gon has become since his first meeting with him. Nobunaga thinks to himself, "At 30 years old I should be in my prime, but it seems these kids are already starting to catch up to me. Maybe I should be happy I made it this long while traveling with the troupe. We've all done things we regret while we've been here. Maybe this is our time to be judged, and this is all just a part of life. Well, I can't just lay here and hide. I have to face this like I've done everything since joining the troupe," Nobunaga thinks. As he continues trying to get to his feet to reach Kurapika and Phaeton, their battle continues to be evenly matched until Phaeton is able to slap one of Kurapika's swords out of his hand and out of his reach. Phaeton uses this opportunity to push forward and try to finish his weakened opponent, but Kurapika has been careful throughout the fight not to damage Phaeton enough to activate his Painpacker Sun combo, and is waiting for his chance to finish the fight. And now that Phaeton is overconfident, Kurapika makes his move, throwing his sword at Phaeton as a distraction that is easily dodged. But with Phaeton in the air and heading straight towards Kurapika, he is unable to avoid Kurapika's judgment chain, and just like that the battle is over. Kurapika stands just out of Phaeton's reach and tells him, "This is your last chance to surrender." Phaeton laughs, saying, "I haven't lived the worst life, or the best, but I've always lived it my way, and I'll be damned if I changed it now. See you in hell, chain user." Phaeton calls out his Painpacker suit, but before it can save him, he is killed by Kurapika's chains and falls to the floor. Kurapika takes a deep breath, looks over to the still stuck Machi, ready to offer her the same deal. But he is stopped when Nobunaga calls out asking, "Why would you change at this point?" he asks with a confused tone. Kurapika answers, "I don't want to continue down this road of rage and violence. I want justice for my clan being destroyed, and the spider's destruction is a fair eye for an eye, as far as justice goes." Nobunaga laughs to himself, then answers, "I've given most of my life to the troupe. It's been my only family, because it's the only family I thought would ever want me. But if you truly would give a man like me a second chance, I would be foolish to deny it. So, chain user, if you're serious, use your chain, and I'll make my vow to never be a spider again." Nobunaga lays his sword down and waits for Kurapika to use his judgment chain. Nobunaga closes his eyes and thinks of the life he could live after this, or the new family he could start with this second chance. and Kurapika agrees happily that at least one troop member wasn't too far to be saved. Maybe this means I can turn my life around after this too, Kurapika thinks, as Nobunaga's nin vow is complete. Nobunaga looks back at his sword, deciding to leave it behind. He apologizes to Machi as he walks away, still hurting from earlier, but feeling like a weight is lifted off his shoulders. He tells Kurapika, "It takes a truly good man to forgive. Thank you. Please show this mercy to Machi and the others as well." Kurapika nods his head, but feels a dark aura coming down the stairs. He sees Hisoka stumble down, badly injured again, no doubt by Chrollo. Even in this state, Hisoka is still on the hunt. Without a word, he rushes towards the hurt Nobunaga and mercilessly cuts him down with one of his hidden blades, to Kurapika's dismay. Kurapika shouts out he wasn't going to fight, he had already given up, but Hisoka just laughs as he shuffles his battered body closer to Kurapika. Hisoka says, "He was helping Chrollo try to murder me, so sorry I'm not exactly his friend." Hisoka walks past Kurapika and over to Phaeton's body, straight to Machi. Hisoka begins using his bungee gum to make something, causing Kurapika to question Hisoka's actions. Hisoka just laughs, saying, "I made this trick watching Illumi Zoldyck." Hisoka then twists a needle out of his bungee gum and sticks it into Machi's ear, again laughing. "I'm not the best manipulator, but simple tasks like this are no problem." Hisoka then forces Machi to heal him up with her nin ability, stitching his wounds closed. Kurapika looks on in disgust, thinking, this guy's probably worse than any of the troop members. At least they cared about each other. Hisoka's just a monster. Hisoka interrupts Kurapika's train of thought, calling out, "Once Machi heals me, I'll finish off Chrollo." Hisoka starts laughing to himself, just thinking of getting his revenge, until Kurapika says, "Maybe you need a break, just let me handle it while you heal up." Hisoka stops and turns to Kurapika. "Don't you remember what I've said from the start? Chrollo's mine." Kurapika tells Hisoka that it's time to stop the scary clown act. "Chrollo's kicked your ass twice already, and I'm just not gonna miss my chance just so you can lose again. You can stay here while I find Chrollo." Kurapika turns his back on Hisoka, but the crazy clown finally snaps, as he throws several cards at Kurapika to no avail. Kurapika's chain makes short work, knocking them out of the air. "That's it, Hisoka. I hoped it wouldn't come to this, but we're done. This is over. Leave or I'll take you out myself." Hisoka laughs as he tosses Machi to the side, then uses Texture Surprise to finish up his healing routine, leaving Hisoka looking almost as good as new. Hisoka begins walking towards Kurapika, as both now know a fight is unavoidable at this point, but Hisoka stops as a voice calls out. Gon steps back down from the stairway, clearly having been in a fight already himself, but ready for another. He says, "Kurapika has more important things to do. Why don't you settle things with me while he's busy?" Hisoka smiles, now looking past Kurapika and straight to Gon. Gon walks past Kurapika, telling him, "Finks got away from me, but he's hurt for sure. My guess is he's going to meet up with Chrollo." Kurapika can tell by Gon's aura he's not changing his mind, so he just thanks his friend and heads off to hopefully finally fight Chrollo. As Kurapika leaves, Gon promises to meet back up when Hisoka is handled. Hisoka lets out a final laugh before his face becomes deadly serious, saying, "I hope you got better since last time, so I'm not too bored, Gon." Gon snaps back, saying, "Don't worry, I won't disappoint you," as both their auras begin to build up for their big fight. Hisoka is the first to jump forward, eager to see how strong his little rival has become. Hisoka attacks with a simple but powerful strike, wanting to test Gon's speed, but Gon stands his ground, easily blocking Hisoka's chop and pushing his arm away. Hisoka is impressed and counters with a spinning kick, but again Gon is unshaken as he easily blocks the attack, then smugly smiles at Hisoka. Now pissed off, Hisoka violently begins stringing together attacks that are finally able to challenge Gon enough for him to dodge, but Hisoka is still unable to land a clean hit as Gon evades everything that comes his way. Hisoka then thinks back to their first fight in Heaven's Arena, how he was able to so easily toy with Gon before, but these thoughts just seem to anger Hisoka even more as he tells himself, "I'm the monster here, not him. I can't let him think for a second he's better than me." Hisoka begins using his surroundings to his advantage, sticking things with his bungee gum to create traps and throw furniture Gon's way. But Gon remains calm, always watching Hisoka carefully enough to safely counter back. but Hisoka is finally able to land a decent hit as he launches a large sign at Gon, with the built-up tension of his bungee gum snapping towards Hisoka's prey. Gon is able to avoid the attack, but is momentarily unable to see Hisoka. Gon laughs to himself. Is Hisoka trying to use the strategy I used in our last fight? Gon readies himself for Hisoka to attack, and he's right. Hisoka bursts from a blind spot, armed with his blade-like playing cards. He then tosses several towards Gon, who barely avoids them by ducking down to safety. Gon looks up to see Hisoka falling towards him, no doubt hoping to land a crushing attack. So Gon pops to his feet, ready to defend himself, but a stabbing pain hits his back. As he notices several of the playing cards Hisoka threw had came back to hit him from behind. He must have had some bungee gum connected to the cards so he could yank them back to himself. Gon thinks, but as he is distracted, Hisoka lands feet first with Gon's chest, kicking him to the floor. The hit knocks the wind out of Gon and leaves him needing to recover, but Hisoka grabs his knife, giving Gon no chance to regroup, hoping to end Gon quick enough to catch back up with Kurapika. Gon is forced to use a Janjanken variation, sacrificing 20% of his remaining aura to instantly charge one punch. Hisoka is surprised by the sudden aura shift in Gon's body and tries backing up, leading to Gon landing only a glancing blow on Hisoka, but still one with enough force to send Hisoka a message that he's not the same kid he was in the last fight. Gon stands to his feet as Hisoka begins taunting him, saying, "I'm sure you remember the last time we were here. It was so cute how you thought you had a chance to beat me. I wonder, you still have that delusion, Gon?" "Quit stalling, Hisoka," Gon shouts back. "We both feel like we're gonna win this, so why waste time?" Hisoka laughs as he feels his blood boil, the thought of this kid talking so arrogantly. Hisoka yells out, "You're definitely stronger than you were back then, but you're just as stupid, falling for the same old tricks." Hisoka tugs at Gon with an almost invisible strand of bungee gum attached to Gon's chest. Hisoka laughs menacingly. "You still need a few years to compete with me, but it's time for the Reaper to reap." Hisoka begins trying to pull Gon to him, but again, Gon is able to stand his ground and resists Hisoka with his superior strength. "If you think I haven't learned since our last fight, then you're the stupid one, Hisoka. I knew whether you came for me or I came for you, we would fight again, so I've been preparing." Gon again sacrifices a portion of his remaining aura, this time 50% of what remains, then summons his Janjanken scissors. This new upgraded version transmutes the aura he sacrifices into a blade that lasts until all the aura Gon puts into the Nin blade is depleted. Gon then effortlessly cuts the bungee gum, Hisoka attached to him. Hisoka is shocked but tries his hardest to keep Gon from noticing, as he thinks to himself, "Even with the sharp blade he shouldn't be able to slice my bungee gum so easily. But he's wasting a lot of aura. I'm sure I can outlast him, even though neither of us want this fight going on much longer. I'm sure I can bluff him into making a mistake, or maybe a simple bungee gum trap. But this is very interesting," Hisoka thinks, as he attaches his knife to a strip of bungee gum and begins swinging it around himself. At first, Gon thinks Hisoka's attacks are random and sloppy, but as he watches, he can tell Hisoka has fought like this before and is skilled enough to do some major damage. As Gon thinks up a plan, Hisoka taunts him. "What's wrong, Gon? Aren't you gonna rush in like you always do? Or are you finally realizing you're gonna die if you keep fighting me? I have all night. The more spiders your friends take out, the better. I know your little friend can't beat Crollo anyway, but at least he'll soften him up for me, or die trying." Gon pauses for a moment, then begins running towards Hisoka. Not because of the teasing, but because he realizes he may still have to help Kurapika fight Crollo, and Kurapika might even need his help right now. So Gon tries blitzing Hisoka, skillfully swinging his Nin blade, with a finesse he hadn't had before. Obviously having a teacher like Ying has let Gon take all his potential and turn it into a mastery of all his Nin and fighting abilities. Hisoka begins to worry as he starts to have the same feeling he felt in his fight with Crollo. What is this, he thinks? Am I afraid of Gon? Hisoka is unable to fully evade one of Gon's attacks and is sliced down the chest, doing a great deal of damage and sending him to the ground in pain. Hisoka can see his blood spilling on the floor, so he quickly uses his bungee gum to seal and compress his wounds, stopping the bleeding for now. But Gon is still on the attack, trying to land another slash on Hisoka. Luckily, Hisoka is quick enough to slingshot himself to safety, leaving even more bungee gum traps, hoping to slow down Gon. but nothing works, as Gon quickly dashes between them, slicing every connection he can without being touched. Hisoka quickly creates a thick, sticky rope with his bungee gum, then expertly braids it for extra strength. He finishes right as Gon arrives. Gon slams his nin blade down on Hisoka, and is surprised that his blade is finally stopped. Hisoka holds the rope above his head like a shield, holding back Gon's attack, the sticky gum also keeping Gon from pulling his blade away. Hisoka can finally see Gon's blade up close, and is amazed at the level of nin control Gon is showing, as he can see that the blade isn't one sharp edge, but hundreds of small edges, perfectly working together to cut everything in their path. Even now, the strongest bungee gum Hisoka can create is slowly being cut by Gon's seemingly unstoppable blade. Hisoka is able to kick Gon back, ripping his sword out of the bungee gum. Hisoka tries using his throwing cards, but Gon slices each out of the air, then shouts, "Scissors, shoot!" As Gon swings his nin blade, it shoots out a blade of energy, catching Hisoka by surprise, with no defense. The sharp aura cuts into Hisoka, reopening his wound, causing catastrophic damage. Gon's nin blade disappears as the stored nin is depleted, leaving Gon catching his breath as he walks over to Hisoka. Gon again sacrifices a portion of his nin as he tells Hisoka, "It's over, I beat you." Hisoka's blood boils, but he's too exhausted and hurt to fight. "I didn't take you seriously enough," Hisoka chokes out. "That's the only reason I lost." Gon smiles for a second, but quickly turns to a scowl. Gon thinks, "I never really liked Hisoka, and it's always been complicated when he's around, but I can't help but feel a kinship with him." Gon looks to Hisoka one last time, saying, "Thank you for pushing me to get stronger." Hisoka just smiles as Gon lands his finishing blow, a scissors attack straight to the heart. Gon's exhausted and wonders how much nin he has left, but he looks up, knowing his friends are still in danger, so he again runs after them, hoping he doesn't arrive too late. Hello and thanks for coming back to see part 11 of my What If Kurapika Went After the Phantom Troupe series. Or if you're new, I'll just remind you to hit the subscribe button so you can get notified whenever I post. Also, if you want to catch up on anything you missed, there's a full playlist of everything that's happened so far on my channel. But that seems like a good enough intro. Let's get back to the story and see how Kurapika's attack on the Phantom Troupe is going. After his fight with Hisoka, Gon is exhausted from using a large amount of aura defeating his longtime adversary. But still, he thinks if Finks is still alive, it's my job to stop him. I just hope he's not with Chrollo and Kurapika right now. Gon carefully continues up the tower, always checking his surroundings for an ambush or a trap. At least 100 floors above Gon, Killua is chasing after his little brother Kaluto, who is traveling surprisingly fast, using his origami paper to float across the floor and quickly around the many obstacles the troupe has set up beforehand. Killua takes the time disarming what traps he can, hoping to make it easier for Gon, who he figures is still lagging behind on the lower floors, as he tries convincing Kaluto to calm down and talk. But Kaluto ignores his brother, just as he feels he was ignored by their family. He throws razor-sharp origami blades at Killua, but still can't manage to counter Killua's Godspeed. I can see why everyone's always impressed with you, Kill, but I'll show everyone I'm just as amazing as you are. Kaluto is finally able to lead Killua into a large galley room he had set up beforehand, and now he is confident and ready to execute his plan, Godslayer. As Killua enters the room, he finds himself lifted into the air. He sees the floors completely covered in paper of various sizes, similar to the paper Kaluto is using to lift himself. Killua tries dashing away, but as he tries to run, his feet fall through, leaving him unable to escape. Killua can see the mastery of nin control that Kaluto must have to perfectly pick and control what paper lifts and traps Killua, while still careful to stop Killua from placing his feet down to steady himself. Kaluto knew he would need a counter to my Godspeed, and this is a pretty good one. Killua looks for an opening, but several paper blades slice into him as the paper closing around him begins moving around the room. Killua can tell Kaluto has a well thought out plan, but with all these distractions it's hard to figure out exactly what's happening. Killua tries creating a spark with his electricity, hoping to burn away some of the paper swirling around him, but almost as if by a gust of wind, he and the paper is slammed into a nearby wall, further disorienting him. Kaluto takes his chance, trying to gain control of Killua with his manipulator paper, but even in this state, Killua's speed and awareness allows him to dodge or destroy any paper with the extra aura needed to execute Kaluto's manipulation Hatsus. Kaluto scolds his big brother for falling for his trap, saying, "If this is the best you got, I'm ready to prove to Dad and the others that I'm the one they should have been counting on to lead the family." Kaluto adds a rhythm echo to his paper, making it harder for Killua to focus on a way to escape, and as Killua struggles to get out, Kaluto continues his speech. "I remember when Illumi first started teaching me Nin, he made sure to tell me, don't let Killua know about this. Father doesn't want him to learn till he's older. That was the first time I thought I was your equal, let alone maybe I was even ready to learn something before you. But then you ran away to the hunter's exam. All that was shattered when Dad sent Illumi after you. I asked Dad, why did you let Illumi teach me Nin but not Killua? I remember Dad just giving a small chuckle saying, I don't want Killua learning Nin yet because I knew once he learned he would just run off. And with Nin at his disposal, he will just get harder and harder to stop. If possible, I wanted to wait for Killua to be fully aligned with our family's goals before he gets too strong. What about me? I foolishly asked Dad, hoping for some validation about putting the family first, but he just said, I never told Illumi to teach you Nin. He must have just took that upon himself. Truth be told, I don't care if you learn Nin or not. My only goal is to get Killua to realize his full potential so he can lead the next generation of the Zoldycks. Now, go child. I have much to discuss with your grandfather. Kaluto snaps back to reality, telling Killua, I'll tell the family you fought well, but were no match for me in the end. Kaluto slams the swirling mass of paper holding Killua into one of the skyscraper's many windows, breaking through and dangling Killua outside of the massive building and to the streets below. Kaluto's paper disappears, leaving Killua to drop straight down. As he falls, Killua thinks of how his brother must have felt so uncared for. I didn't help by leaving him all those times either, Killua thinks, as he further blames himself for what's happening. I probably deserve this, he thinks, before clenching his fist as he watches the street below get closer and closer. But Kaluto still needs me, Alika still needs me. If I'm the only one who can save this family, then fine. Killua conjures a small metal platform and places it under his feet, then begins building up a massive amount of aura. Kaluto, who has already assumed victory, can feel the buildup of aura and rushes back to the window to see what's going on, and is greeted by an amazing sight as he sees Killua transmutes the huge amount of aura into electricity and forms it into a dragon, much like his grandfather Zeno. This massive electrical dragon forms under Killua and begins flying him back to the fight with Kaluto, who is still in awe of his brother's skills. Kaluto wonders, did he already have this ability ready, or did he just make it out of necessity? Well, I can't prove myself unless I win right here, right now. Kaluto further floats out towards a quickly rising Killua and shapes his paper into a beautiful origami dragon of his own, and with both Zoldyck members atop of their own Nin creation, they clash with a tremendous boom and an explosion of paper and electricity. A moment passes, but the battle is over. Killua lands back in the room he and Kaluto were fighting in before, but he's not alone. He holds his brother's unconscious body for a second before carefully placing him down and checking the damage. Killua is happy to see no real injuries or electrical burns, as it seems what really stopped Kaluto was his exhaust aura reserves. Killua smiles, making sure to tell his brother that he's proud of how strong he has become, and promises he won't leave him behind next time. As Killua sits down catching his breath, Gon bursts in to find the fight already over. Gon asks, is he still alive? Killua answers back, yeah, I didn't want to hurt him too much. Gon smiles back, good, but we still have to get to Kurapika. Killua nods his head, then pinches a pressure point on Kaluto's neck, before explaining to Gon that this will knock Kaluto out for at least the next hour, which should be enough time to finish this up. Gon and Killua then head up to the higher levels of Heaven's Arena, both feeling the effects of their fight so far, but still determined to help their friend, who has already knowingly walked into the spider's web. Kurapika steps deeper into a dark room and hears a familiar laugh, so he pulls his pistol out, ready for what's ahead, but the room quickly turns silent again. Kurapika can tell the room is a suite of some kind, and based on the floor they're on, Kurapika assumes it's one of the floor master's personal rooms. Kurapika wonders, this is most likely a trap, especially if this is Chrollo's room. Kurapika wastes little time, spinning his chain across the room, hoping to unveil some unseen foe, but it seems at least for now he is truly alone. He opens a door leading to a bedroom where he finds a cell phone. He again hears laughter and now knows where it's coming from. He quickly walks over and picks it up, demanding to know who's on the other side. It's answered by Chrollo saying, "Hello, chain user. If you made it this far, I'm guessing there's little left to stop you from reaching me. I'll be waiting for you on the rooftops. There's already been enough bloodshed between us, so let's just settle this." The call ends and Kurapika rushes to the fire escape and quickly makes his way straight up until he sees Chrollo from across the rooftop. Kurapika hesitates for a moment as he realizes his goal is moments from being finished, for better or worse. As he focuses on Chrollo, he almost misses a figure moving in from the side. Kurapika wastes no time activating his Emperor Time ability, giving him the boost he needs to block Fink's sneak attack and counter with an attack of his own. Kurapika's chain slams into the ground, barely missing, but Finks is quick to react. He grabs Kurapika's chain and uses them to fling Kurapika towards Chrollo. Kurapika regains his balance for a moment, but a solid hit by Chrollo connects and sends the young man flying back to Finks, where he is forced to realize he might not be able to take on both of his skilled opponents at the same time. Seeing this, Chrollo taunts his prey, asking, "Is this all you got? I haven't even gotten serious yet." That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please remember to like and subscribe so you keep getting recommended everything I post. But I'm done here, so have a great day, and I'll talk to you all next time. Kurapika tries fighting back, but Chrollo and Fink's teamwork overwhelms him to the point where Kurapika decides he has to try and just survive until Killua or Gon can help him. But that's easier said than done. Finks is leading the attack, with Chrollo staying a safe distance away until he sees a moment to strike. Any chance Kurapika gets is swiftly interrupted and turned against him by the two Troupe members. In a desperate act, Kurapika enhances his strength enough to cave in a large portion of the roof with a single stomp of his foot, causing him and Finks to fall down to the floor below. Kurapika quickly draws his pistol and tries finishing off Finks, but Finks instantly finds cover from Kurapika's barrage of bullets behind some rubble. Kurapika pushes forward, knowing Chrollo must be rushing over to assess the situation. Not wanting to waste his chance, he slams his chains down to the floor, close to Finks, further caving it in and creating separation between the three fighters. Chrollo sees Finks below Kurapika, but decides instead of helping to begin the preparations for his Melody Hatsu. While Kurapika tries battering Finks with his chains, with little options at this range, Finks begins gathering the rubble around him and using his incredible strength to launch them at Kurapika, but with little success, as Kurapika easily bats them away with his chains. It's annoying how good this kid is, Finks thinks, as he waits for Chrollo's assistance. But instead he is surprised by Kurapika leaping down from the floor above and slamming his fist down, creating a huge hole at least 2 floors deep. Finks is able to avoid any damage, but finally realizes Kurapika's plan. He's trying to force the fight to the lower floors, hoping his buddies will reach him sooner. It's really annoying how good this kid is. But it won't matter, Finks says, as he finally reaches 100 spins with his arm, then boldly calls out, "I'm all cranked up and ready to go now." Kurapika wonders, is this a message for me or Chrollo? But just as he locks eyes with Finks, he feels Chrollo's aura dangerously close to him. So Kurapika blindly swings behind him and learns he was correct, as Chrollo barely dodges Kurapika's attack and counters with one of his own, sending Kurapika falling to Finks' waiting arms. Kurapika quickly uses his chains to swing to a safe spot out of Finks' immediate range, giving him just enough time to avoid one of Finks' tremendous kicks. Kurapika quickly conjures up a simple smoke bomb, then tosses it behind him as he dashes away out of the Troupe members' sights. Kurapika draws his pistol again as he tries catching his breath, but knowing his time is numbered, his mind races thinking of a plan. He hears the floor beneath him rumble, and he assumes that Finks is attacking from below, but thankfully it's Gon, bursting in from the lower floors. Kurapika and Gon see each other but waste no time celebrating. Kurapika warns Gon of the Troupe members hot on his tail, so Gon readies himself as he also assures Kurapika that Killua is close by, and like clockwork, Killua hops into the room from the same opening made by Gon. Killua is obviously tired but still stops to ask Kurapika if he's hurt. Thankfully, not much, Kurapika answers, but Finks and Chrollo will be here any minute to try and change that. Don't worry about Finks, Gon says. If me and Killua rush him, we should take him out no problem, and then we can finish Chrollo 3-on-1. Kurapika pats Gon on the back saying, I agree, I can stall Chrollo as long as I'm careful, and I doubt Finks can counter both of you. Killua also nods his head, ready to do whatever it takes to win. He then readies his Godspeed and rushes out into the smoke with Gon right behind him, trying to keep up. Kurapika thinks to himself, I need to remember to thank these guys when this is over, before he heads out into the smoky battlefield. He can also see Finks trying to catch Kurapika, but doesn't see Chrollo. He tries to carefully climb back up to the roof, but he is met face to face with a trap. A set of thread much like Machi's is connected to a tripwire explosive. Kurapika carefully avoids it, wondering if there is some way Machi is still in the fight, but he is interrupted by Chrollo, who skillfully attacks Kurapika with his signature knife. Kurapika dodges several close calls before he manages to disarm Chrollo. Finally, he readies his judgment chain to finish the Phantom Troupe's leader once and for all. But Chrollo gracefully avoids the chain while running straight to Kurapika. Chrollo then tackles his rival to the ground, but Kurapika quickly recovers, kicking Chrollo off of him and getting back to his feet. Kurapika didn't realize Chrollo's true motive for closing the distance until he noticed his earplugs had been taken out in the split second they were both on the ground. Damn, Kurapika thinks, as he frantically checks his surroundings for Melody. Again, he sees his friend's body, destroyed and fixed beyond recognition, struggling to get into position to play her instrument. With little time to think, as Melody starts to play the Dark Sonata, Kurapika enhances his strength to unleash a thunderous clap, with his hands as close as he can to both ears. This bursts Kurapika's eardrums, leaving nothing to hear but a painful, deafening ring. Chrollo assumes the pain on Kurapika's face is from the Dark Sonata, luring him into a sense of security. This allows Kurapika to surprise Chrollo by grabbing Chrollo's leg with his chain. Kurapika can't hear, but he shouts out, "It's over, Chrollo." But Chrollo has one more trick up his sleeve. He compliments Kurapika's resolve, but promises nobody is willing to go as far as he is. Chrollo opens his book, flipping through various pages with all the deceased Phantom Troupe members, until he reaches Phaeton. Kurapika tries pulling Chrollo in closer, but is unable to overpower his deceptively strong foe. Chrollo raises a hand, letting out a ball of energy as he laughs. If this means the spiders will live on, I'll destroy everything here. As long as the spider survives, I will live on in it. Kurapika is confused, but can tell a huge attack is coming, so he reluctantly releases Chrollo from his grasp. Chrollo unleashes Phaeton's Hatsu Rising Sun as Kurapika scrambles for cover. But the Ninball is extremely powerful and explodes on impact with Heaven's Arena. The explosion causes the sharp point of the building to break off and fall into itself, causing even more damage to Heaven's Arena. As it falls through hundreds of floors, the unstable building begins to crumble from all the damage it's taken over the last few hours. Even from below, Gon, Killua, and Finks can tell what's happened as they scramble to safety. Gon tries keeping an eye on Finks, still wary of his opponent, while Kurapika runs to save the still unconscious Kaluto. But higher up, Chrollo and Kurapika are forced to attempt a dangerous descent as Heaven's Arena crashes to the earth and settles after an explosion of dust and rubble. Gon is trapped but safe in a hallway, carefully looking for a way out, while Killua drops to the floor in exhaustion, having barely carried Kaluto to the safety out of the partially collapsed skyscraper. Finks is too injured to fight and is unable to escape before being found and beaten by Gon. Kurapika opens his eyes and begins healing himself with his chain. First his head and ears and then his body. Luckily he is still healthy enough to fight, but wonders if Chrollo was even able to survive his own attack. But of course, Chrollo emerges from the dust, amazed by how much stronger the postmortem Nin has made Phaeton's ability. Chrollo takes his book out again, then moves his bookmark to his next ability as he talks to himself, unaware of Kurapika regaining his hearing. I wish I could have stolen Phaeton's Painpacker suit to go with the sun, but there's always a price for power. Limiting myself to one stolen ability per dead troop member was the better call, despite this setback. Krollo sees Kurapika lying on the floor, again assuming he must be beat. He ignores Kurapika to collect his new toy, saying, "Thanks to Troupe, I can keep you in his Nin vault until I need you." Krollo opens a Nin portal and then begins to stuff Melody inside, so he can use her for the Dark Sonata some other time. But Kurapika quickly leaps to his feet and finally lands his Judgment Chain on a confused Krollo. Krollo winces from the pain as Kurapika warns Krollo that if he disobeys him, the chain will kill him instantly. Krollo winces this time with more boredom than pain, reminding Kurapika that they have been through this before and to get on with it. Kurapika tells Krollo, "I'm going to kill you shortly, but it's not for revenge or because I hate you anymore. I've moved on, but you still need to be stopped for all the death and pain you've caused and will probably continue to cause for as long as you live. Any last words, Krollo?" Krollo laughs, saying, "So, you're over it? You don't care about the Kurta clan anymore? You don't even want to know why we killed them and took their eyes?" Kurapika is quiet for a moment, so Krollo continues. "The only reason we went after the Kurta clan was because we were paid to. But the interesting thing is, who paid us?" Krollo laughs again. "It was your little hunter association. They gave us the contract and wanted the eyes for God knows what. We just sold them on the black market because the hunters went back on our deal. You've been working for the people that killed your clan this whole time without knowing." Krollo continues to mock Kurapika until he notices that Kurapika isn't reacting. He asks, "What's wrong, kid? Are you in shock? Planning your next killing spree?" Krollo waits for an answer, but is surprised when Kurapika simply says, "No, I'm not. I told you I'm done with this. I'm not a stone cold killer like you. I'll have to live with the guilt of what I've done for the rest of my life. I just hope whoever's responsible for what happened to my clan feels that guilt too. Or at least fear when they hear what's happened to the troop." Krollo begins to panic, knowing he truly might die here. He tries making a deal, saying, "Well, we can go after the hunters together, find out who's really responsible, if you want." But Krollo can see that Kurapika has truly let go of his hate and rage, and is moving past his clan's trauma. Krollo tries thinking of any way to make it out of this alive as he always does, but unable to, he just smiles and congratulates Kurapika on his victory. Kurapika's Judgment Chain slams into Krollo's heart, and within seconds he is gone, and Kurapika is finally free to rest.